This project is always challenging for first-year students. It's the first time they've come together as a cohort. And obviously this year with the pandemic, it has been particularly challenging with students flying in from all over the world, dealing with the quarantine and the masking and the hand sanitizing and the social distancing. Social distancing, even through today, we have a number of students who are still in their country's lockdown and aren't able to join us in person on this stage, but you'll see them being beamed in on the screen behind me. I'd like to acknowledge at this point the student life team here at the conservatory has done an amazing job at facing down these challenges that we've had to deal with the pandemic and getting everybody safe and sound back to Singapore and for the first years into Singapore, our international students into Singapore, many of them for the first time. I would like to also just acknowledge the Professional Awareness Teaching Cluster, which has played an important role in delivering the orientation activities, many of which kind of were background information leading into the creative project. And finally, I'd like to introduce our visiting professor of Music Concepts and Materials, Karste Young, who's the team leader for this creative project. But before I do that, also would like to acknowledge the programming and production team that is bringing this production to you live, as well as Mervyn Wong, an artist fellow here at the conservatory and the lead producer of this production. So thank you very much. I'll hand over the mic to Karste Young, who's going to tell you a little bit of background of this specific creative project and a little bit of narrative background of how the students arrived at this really moving production that you're about to see. Thank you.
Thanks, Brett, for introducing me. Hello, everyone. I'd like to say a few words about this specific project, which is titled Alone Together. And as Brett already said,
okay. Sorry about that. All right, I think we're all here, Mark, so you can go ahead and let me know when we're streaming. All right, we're back in open session. Thank you, everyone. The next item on our agenda is the superintendent's report. So I'm going to turn it over to Liz. Liz? You're on mute, Liz.
Yes, so today marked the beginning of the school year in that it was the day that our staff did return. They all attended virtual meetings held at their schools and started the planning for the school year. So there were staff meetings, there were team meetings. Some teachers were getting their rooms ready or moving materials around as needed as well. Next week, we will be holding parent orientations for all of the students at all levels. We will also have curriculum nights. So the parent orientations will be information about remote learning to get students and parents ready for what that experience is going to be. The curriculum nights, parents will be provided with training and information on how to negotiate the different technical devices and also any manipulatives that the students may need as well. We have recently received an update from the state of Ohio on our county level, which is orange. Though we are in orange, we will continue to start the school year remotely. And then finally, we continue to have our virtual cafes. Those will continue through next week. By their conclusion, we would have had about 16 virtual cafe and family meetings with all of our families to get them ready for the school year. They've been great sessions, and we've gained great insight to help guide our work.
Thank you, Liz. And I had heard from a lot of the school board presidents on the most recent call that even if the county was going orange, that the Board of Health had recommended staying remote anyways, because there's a chance that it's going to bounce around in, colors from orange to red to orange for a while. And that I believe the guidance is that you have to stay at orange for several weeks before you can really consider it orange.
Even in the state of Ohio, there are counties that were orange last week that are red this week. So there's lots of roller coastering around that's likely to happen. So we're going to stay the course on remote for now.
Okay. And then the next item under your superintendent's report is we have a final reading on a couple of policies. Do you want to talk about those, or invite Dr. Lombardo up to talk about them?
Dr. Lombardo will take us through those policies again.
Excellent. Good evening, everyone. Just to recap, on Tuesday, the board did pass a resolution to suspend part of the board policy 0131 during the period of an emergency due to COVID-19. And what this actually did was allow the board an opportunity to approve any board policy either to COVID-19 or during this emergency with less than 3 readings. We did hear 2 policies on Tuesday, which was protective facial covering during pandemic epidemic events, policy 8450.01, and also policy 3220, standard-based teacher evaluation. This would be the second and could be the final reading if the board chooses tonight on 8450.01. This protective facial covering during a pandemic epidemic event policy would mandate face coverings for all students and staff while they are in the buildings and on the school ground. There are exceptions. Masks wouldn't be needed, and those are stated in policy if you're outside more than 6 feet apart. But it will be mandated that when you're around working in the buildings, students and staff would have to have masks. So I'll take any questions or if there's any conversation about this. If you did choose to vote on this, you would just have to motion and take a vote.
Does anyone have any questions?
I was under the impression that the state changed the guidance around shields just within the past week. I see that the policy was sort of updated that it requires administrative permission to use a shield instead. Is that sort of our adaptation to the changing tides in Columbus?
Yeah, so on the 15th, the Ohio Department of Health issued the use of face shields are not appropriate substitutes. And that happened last Friday, so we did update the policy to show that. There are exemptions when you could use a face shield. For example, if you're teaching in front of a student that's hearing impaired or English language learners, in a science class, if they're using Bunsen burners, a cloth mask can absorb as well as the flame, so you can use those in those situations. And they do recommend that although they don't replace the mask, you could wear a mask and a shield so that droplets get in your eyes if you're within 6 feet to people. But all that is stated in the policy. But yes, Dan, that came out on the 15th, so we were able to update the policy to correspond to that.
And then with the fact that we are, for the most part, remote, is the width that we adopt this in a single, basically adopt it tonight, or do we want to go through the full 3rd reading since we are remote?
Yeah, the recommendation, and it is important to adopt it tonight because we do have, our buildings are opening and we do have staff in the buildings. We have custodians, cleaners. We are having teachers come in and get materials ready. We have administration in the buildings. And board office are in the buildings as well. So I think it's very, very important that we set that example and that we have a mandatory mask wearing policy.
And final question, I'm sorry to be taking up everybody's time. I'm sure other people will have questions too. I'm interested in the how our mask policy is being communicated to the non-publics who will be riding our buses, and how we will handle that.
Right. Once the policy, if the policy is approved tonight, Scott Smith will be sending out that communication to the non-publics about our procedures and protocols as they enter the bus. But that will be communicated.
Great.
We haven't read the policy out loud, so I want to just take a second to summarize, because I think it's important that everybody hear that what we have is a universal policy that everybody wears a mask. Students, teachers, staff, visitors, parents, and that anybody coming into a school district building must wear a mask. There are exceptions, of course, where the exceptions are warranted, but that needs to just be the base level that everybody understands.
And I know we've ordered masks, so if somebody shows up without one, they will be provided one.
Absolutely. We have them for the bus. We have them in all the buildings, all the offices. They will be provided one. All visitors, if they come and they don't have a mask, we will be able to provide them one.
Any other questions before I ask for a motion? Then do I have a motion to approve policy 8450.01, protective facial coverings during pandemic epidemic events?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Dan, you're on mute.
Second.
Any further discussion?
So we're doing the one and done. We're adopting it permanently right now with one reading. Yes.
Well, it'll be the second reading, but yeah. We will be adopting it under the emergency resolution that it only actually requires one reading, but we did do a first reading at our last meeting. But I think this one's important to have it done because we do have people in the buildings already.
Agreed.
All right. Is there any further discussion? Mr. Gaynor, will you call the roll?
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Josh? Yes. Mr. Himes?
Yes.
Ms. Serene?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, our second. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say the next policy is the new OTES 2.0 policy 3220, standards-based teacher evaluation. So we're taking these separately.
Yeah, so this one, we won't be implementing the OTES 2.0 until next year. We have that option to bypass 1 year and stick with the OTES 1.0. Although the guidelines and the state says that this needs to be adopted before September 1st, 2020. So this was reviewed by our committee, which is our appraisal review committee, which is made up of board office, administration, and 795 union. It is ready to go and ready to be approved. You'll notice at the bottom of the policy, it does state the date. If today is the day you take it as the final reading, it has the date on it, adopted today, the 20th, effective July 1st, 2021. If you do choose to take a third reading on this, if it is before September 1st, you can do a third reading. I would just alter the bottom of that last page to represent the day that you actually adopt the policy.
Do we have another meeting before the 1st of September?
There will be one next Tuesday.
Yep.
Thank you.
Which is September 1st. So we have to, no,
No, you're a week behind there, Joe.
I'm a week ahead,
Yeah.
25th. Sorry.
The reason I ask is that I don't think this policy is emergent. And so if we can wait and have a third reading, I would like to avoid invoking our COVID-19 suspension of regular proceedings when it's not relevant. And this doesn't seem to require the suspension of our regular rules.
I agree with you.
I think that's a good precedent to set, that if it's not something that truly is an emergency, that we hold off and don't make it an emergency. So we will hold this one as this is the second reading of it. And Dr. Lombardo, you get to bring it back to us again for a third reading.
I'd be happy to, no problem.
All right. There's nothing else on the agenda. So unless there's anything anybody wants to add, I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
So motion.
Second.
Do I have a second? Thank you. Mr. Gaynor, will you call the roll?
Mr. Bosch.
Yes.
Mr. Hines.
Yes.
Ms. Sereni.
Yes.
Ms. Lewis.
Molly, we didn't catch that.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Wright.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We are adjourned.
All right. Good night.
Have a good
Good
night.
night, everybody.
Good night.